Welcome to the World Metal Congress's first ever proper webcast, and a huge hello to everyone who joined us for our debut with Nurgle and, of course, Lucian from the Temple of Satan. We're going to be addressing an incredibly important issue, one that affects us all, of course, and something that I think we won't have all the answers for, but we certainly hope to, at the very least, ask the right questions. I'm really pleased to be joined by one of the co-founders of the World Metal Congress, Josh Retallick. Josh, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you, Alex. Thanks for finally inviting me in.
It's great to have you here, albeit virtually, Josh. I mean, look, you're a national promoter in the UK. How has this been for you?
I mean, from a personal level, like I remember when it all started in March, and sort of like standing out on the balcony at night time, you know, with a beer and a cigarette, and sort of like the Twilight Zone part of me just thinking, this is so fucking weird. And then, you know, in a sort of cool sort of way. And then you fast forward it through to now September, and it's getting fucking boring pretty quick, to be honest. Because, you know, at the start of when this all happened, it really did feel like event promoters, like I felt like I was the only person that was getting systematically fucked by what was going on. And then, obviously, you know, because obviously they closed down events first, and then it all became wider and wider and wider, you know, whether it be pubs, restaurants, you know, lockdowns and stuff. And I can't, the guiltiness in me actually said, I felt kind of better when that happened in a way, because I wasn't on my own anymore. I mean, we were all getting, you know, systematically screwed together. So, I mean, I know that sounds really selfish, but, you know, better to be, you know, fucked together than me on my own, right?
Indeed. Well, it's something that none of us certainly anticipated, and we're about to be joined by one of the most important artists in our world, and the man behind one of the most important festivals in our world in just a moment. And we are joined by two incredible figures in the world of music, Walter from Roadburn and Amalie from Myrkur. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
I'm doing fine, thank you as well, Alex.
Yeah, well, look, we have so much ground that we would love to cover in this conversation, but I guess initially I would love to begin from a human perspective. Do you remember the day or the moment that you realized the world was changing? Amalie, for instance?
I think it was, I visited a friend who's a doctor at a hospital in Denmark, and we're talking about COVID, correct?
Indeed.
Yeah, okay. But he, and everyone was saying, oh, it will be so nice when we can return to our lives in a few weeks. And he was saying to me, like, people have no idea what's about to come, and it's going to be bad, and we have not even seen, this is tip of the iceberg, plus what it'll do financially in long-term effects. So I think I already knew back then, this was in March maybe, or something. And it was right around the time my album would come out. So I was thinking, interesting time. But so I kind of just backed off and almost like accepted already back then. I knew that if I started to fight it and think, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? I don't know. I would go crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a feeling a lot of people can certainly relate to. And I guess, you know, Walter, you know, as the man behind Roadburn Festival, I mean, you didn't have an album about to come out. You had an event about to happen as well. So when did that realization begin to hit you? Because I guess for so many people, they can probably relate to this feeling of just best laid plans completely unraveling.
At the beginning of March, I went to Hamburg and Berlin for two small events. And instead of talking about the events, suddenly I was talking to like festivals like Summer Breeze and Wacken about like, what if COVID will hit the festivals? What if we have to cancel? What will happen? What will that do to us financially? How does it work like legally? And suddenly it hit me like there is something going on that is so big, and I couldn't comprehend anymore in a way. Just the idea of losing Roadburn only like a month in advance, and like throughout mid-March, like the first ever COVID patient in the Netherlands was hospitalized in Tilburg. And then it hit me like really hard, and I had something like, and the O13 had something like, oh, wait a second, this is not good. And immediately, 10 minutes after the news broke that the COVID patient was in Tilburg, things got completely crazy on social media, and people were asking us questions whether Roadburn would go ahead or not. And we had no idea what would hit us. We only knew that it would be bad. And then we saw like everything unravel in the weeks after. It was really horrendous on all levels, like for like people individually, society, the festival. It was crazy.
A crazy moment.
Yeah, because you start to realize you can do anything. It's so big, and it's literally it's everywhere. And I remember vividly people struggling, agents getting crazy and anxious, bands getting scared, me getting scared, and suddenly you're in a kind of unprecedented situation and you don't know what to do anymore. Literally, I felt paralyzed at certain moments. And the government pulled the plug on Roadburn only 2.5 weeks in advance of the festival. The whole staff was at work. There was a lot of money already being going around in the festival, and then suddenly you need to like literally pull the plug on the thing that you're doing for 23 years, and you have no idea where you are.
And I guess this is something that you can both speak to. And, you know, Josh, of course, you know, as a promoter, Old Empire, you know, will know as well as anyone, 6 months on, it's almost impossible to predict when things will be restored, when things will go back. And so I guess what we're hoping to kind of explore is how do we respond in the meantime? What is the way forward for this music and this scene? Because it feels like as an artist, Amalie, but also as promoters, Walter and Josh, I mean, you face, I think, you know, one of the greatest challenges, because the very thing that sustains music, you know, the live medium, just isn't possible in any traditional form right now. I mean, so is live streaming the answer? Is that the way forward? I put it to the group.
Who wants to take this one? I mean, we've done a few sort of live streaming events to the Old Empire, but I don't know, I've been sort of quite reluctant to sort of take on new projects as we've been, you know, as everything sort of kicked off, but it has felt like live streaming has been a good way to make sure that we kept like live music as being sort of a viable and trying to keep it in people's minds. But I mean, it doesn't feel the same personally. It still doesn't really add up for us massively from a financial point of view. But I also still see the importance of trying to, I mean, it's there really as a beacon to keep people positive, I guess. But for me, as a promoter / businessman, I'm still not 100% convinced yet.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and Amalie, I suppose, I mean, you had an album release literally days away, you know. I mean, what happened immediately, and how do you continue to promote a record in the meantime while the whole world's gone crazy?
Well, it's not really my job to promote my album. That's Relapse. So I just deliver the music, and then I don't know, I have a close relationship to my fans. I speak to them, and you know, I think they were excited no matter what. And of course, the album could have maybe gotten more attention if I could tour with it right away. That's usually what most bands do. It's like they release an album so they can tour. And I've never been like that anyway. Plus, I had just had a baby at the time, so I really wasn't interested in touring anyway. So it was weirdly okay for me. But yeah, I was asked a million times, like, let's do this live stream event and let's do this and that, and a great live stream experience. And it's just, I don't know, I can't be bothered. And I appreciate the bands that can, but I don't feel like doing it very much. And maybe it's because I personally wouldn't want to watch a concert like that. Maybe in a year when we still can't go out, then I'll be like, okay, I don't know what I was saying. I want to see music and I want to see it on my screen then. But that to me is, I hope that doesn't happen.
There's definitely been some good ones though. Like I remember the Aranzi Pazuzu one that happened a few months ago, and that was the first live stream event that I'd watched. Being sort of fairly pensive about whether I would enjoy it or not, and it was fucking excellent. Like it was really, really good fun.
Good.
I mean, it was quite strange, sort of sitting on my bed with my laptop with a can of beer. But I mean, as a promoter, funnily enough, I don't actually watch that much live music because I'm backstage doing boring stuff with tour managers and doing accounting. So it was fun. It was an interesting experience. So, at least I didn't have to queue up for the bar, I guess.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I think that live streams can be really interesting if there is like an artistic concept behind, or that it's like a groundbreaking kind of like stream. But just having bands playing in an empty venue and still putting on a show, pretending to be in front of thousands of people, it doesn't work for me. And I understand why bands want to do this and want to get their music across, but I just don't feel it in front of my screen. But if it's like Enslaved did a couple of like high-tech kind of streams which were really good, but the streams make me a bit angry in a way, and don't get me wrong, but I'm missing it. I miss it being in the venue. I miss it being among friends. I want to hug people, want to talk people, want to yell and scream with all the other people, and that kind of interaction is gone behind your screen.
Well, I kind of wanted to actually broach an important thing that you mentioned, Walter, of course, because look, I mean, I like a lot of people, I wonder every day, when this ends, and what the world is that we're going to emerge to afterward. And the assumption is that there's going to be this same world to return to whenever this is all over, hoping that this will end at some point. But, one of the most valuable conduits for music and, that artistic expression are these venues. Now, in the UK, there is a pervasive worry that a lot of these venues, they have got to shut down. They are shutting down as businesses because how can you sustain yourself indefinitely without direct government support? So I wondered, in your own countries, Amalie, Walter, what kind of support exists, for local venues? What's the response been there, and has it been enough in your view?
Well, actually, surprisingly, not that much support. I think, countries like Denmark and Holland, they do get support from the government, which is why they can have good venues and, and treat bands pretty well too. But I have been pretty surprised, like the government here has given out a lot of helping packages, and it's definitely not been artists or anything within sort of music realm that has gotten any type of support. And which is odd because, there's a lot of people employed in this industry, and, you call them the black t-shirts, like the people behind all the artists. There's so many jobs and so many taxes being paid through those jobs. And they're just being treated sort of like, that's a fun little hobby you had, but, we got to support the real jobs. And that has surprised me a little bit.
That is what was surprising in the Netherlands as well. And I think too, like many of the national government and the local governments, that there was such a so many people behind shows. And at first, the Dutch government really had these help packages for quote unquote serious music, like classical music, contemporary music, jazz, and pop music, and events and festivals were the last in line. They were like, oh, do we have to support this as well? But we are giving grants to the National Theatre and the National Concert Hall and the serious jazz venues. And now they have health packages to keep venues paying wages and everything. But it's still, the live music industry is suffering so much in the Netherlands because the social distancing shows are only for a limited capacity. It's not viable or sustainable in the long run. It's
not for artists either.
No, not for artists at all.
Ticket prices, I'm sure, will be it will be totally difficult to get the fees that you need.
Yeah, the thing that a couple of venues do is they do these social distancing shows, and they give the tickets, the money earned on tickets to the artists to at least to sustain
that's good.
The artists. But we don't know how long the venues can keep doing this before going under themselves. So it's a very complex situation at the moment over here. And what is sustainable to keep the venues afloat, and how can the venues help the actual musicians and their staff and crew. It's a very fine line that actually no one knows how to handle it at the moment, or how long it can go on like this.
I'd like to put a question to the group, because I think Walter, to follow up on that, something Amalie said really resonated, and it's something we've touched on in the World Metal Congress a lot, which is the kind of disregard that a lot of this music has, because it's treated as if it's a hobby, not a serious industry. I mean, let's just say if it was a different industry, it would be easier to lobby for support, because this music comes with so many preconceptions, rock music, things that require congregation, all these sorts of things. Do you think part of the problem perhaps is the way that governments regard the arts, the way that they treat what we do?
Alex, repeat that question. You cut right out when you were saying
okay, that. Well, it's a good thing we're pre-recording. Sorry about that. So, Walter, to follow up on what you're just saying, something that Amalie said really resonated, and it's something we've touched on in the world of World Metal Congress a lot in the past, which is, do you think part of the problem is cultural? Do you think it's because music just doesn't get the regard that other industries do? Because this isn't just some hobby for people. I mean, this is something that keeps people employed. The arts is more than just about self-expression. It's also an industry as well. But is the problem cultural?
No, I'm not sure. One of the most shocking things in the Netherlands, when they start realizing that the music and of the cultural part of raised so much taxes, that there was the amount of money going around in the cultural sector of the Netherlands would be even more than having the national is more than the national airport, so to say. So they were the Netherlands was responding completely shocked to the fact that it's not a hobby but a real industry. And
also your festival is definitely putting your entire country on the map. That's how I see it.
And there's more of the festivals that do that.
Yeah,
but not brought up like anything in it's in Holland, the whole event sector, like the festivals, the nightclubs, the discotheques and everything, we are left behind in a way. There is no guidelines. We are not allowed to do anything at the moment. There is no like a little glimpse. There is nothing at the horizon like that. There is maybe loosening up measures for people like us. It's completely crazy.
So Josh, what's your experience been in the UK as a promoter in this country?
I mean, they only just recently sort of announced some packages for the arts. But even when they announced it, they were sort of like, right, we're going to raise, I think it was something like £14 billion to save flagship venues like the Royal Albert Hall and Royal Festival Hall. And then the rest of us, promoters and bands in the Black Heart, are just all lumped into that same fund. I mean, I know it feels disappointing, because venues like, say, for example, Royal Albert Hall and Royal Festival Hall, they're amazing, don't get me wrong, but they've always received the funding. They've always got their money from the government, whereas none of our venues or none of our artists have, because the UK has never been hugely supportive of music, sort of music as it is, which does seem bizarre when we have such a rich history of bands that exported and promoted our image across the world, whether it be the Rolling Stones or the Spice Girls.
Oh, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone loves the Spice Girls, but look, I'll be honest. But this is a fundamental thing, though, isn't it? When people say the arts, to a lot of people, that's opera. That's ballet. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it extends to a really wide cultural field, and sometimes areas that people are not fans of. But the importance, like Amalie says, it's tourism. It's bringing people in. It's trade. It's not just the core artistic expression itself. It's all the associated things, all the activities related to that. Now, I think, look, there's a fundamental thing about all of this, is that there is no question that there is a tragedy that is unfolding on a global scale right now, and so, to keep everything we're talking about in perspective, it isn't just about the economical effects of the arts being, sort of stopped short. It's in times like these that you need art more than ever. We can't really congregate, but this is a time where we really need to feel that connection, because this bastard disease has, robbed people of their ability, to get together. So how do you respond artistically? Amalie, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Everyone is probably familiar with the idea. I'm going to go into COVID and I'm going to learn a language. I'm going to do 1,000 push-ups a day. I'm going to learn this skill or whatever else. How have you coped as an artist during this time? Have you continued to write? Have you focused on motherhood? What's your response been in the meantime?
Again, I think when you're a new mother, like, your freedom is already pretty limited. I had, a lot of my day is just spent just, I don't know, wiping up porridge off the floor or something. Not very glamorous. But I have been playing a lot of music, and I play a lot for my son and with my son. He can play a drum now, and this little he like slams the guitar, and so I've been doing a lot of music. But I don't know, I haven't been writing much, no. But I'm like I said, my album came out this year, and there's this feeling inside that it wasn't fully brought to the door or something. It wasn't fully blossomed, and so I haven't been able to. I'm not free from this record to write another one, and that's weird. And I think I need to perform it live or something to become more free of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And of course, with the release having been just on the cusp, for many people, that I've interviewed over the years, they talk about albums as almost like a snapshot of everything you were experiencing and doing at that time and all that. Do you look back at that album now as like almost a different version of yourself? Something from the time before? Because I don't know about you guys, but I look at photos from 2019 and I just think to myself, man, I had no idea what was coming.
Yeah, I don't particularly about my album, but because I think albums are like their own atmosphere or something, free of all that stuff. But it really is. I remember thinking to myself months ago, like, all right, so this is the new 9/11, but way worse. In a way, I don't want to offend anyone, but like in the sense that people who are like, I can't wait to go back to normal. I'm really afraid that there's no going back to anything. It's like, now we have to find a new way to live as a human race. Not to sound dramatic, but I really think, let alone as, we're running businesses, touring, I just don't see it falling back into anything. We have to figure out.
It felt like such a small, like it was going to be such a small thing, like to echo what you said earlier on, when you spoke to your doctor friend, and you were sort of like, oh, when this is all over in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I remember in March, once we started cancelling everything, I was like moving stuff into like September, and I was like, this is fucking crazy, putting stuff in September. No, but at the time I was like, that is so far away. But
right.
Just to be safe, we'll put it in September because we'll definitely be back up and running by then.
Yeah.
And like now, everything's moved into 2021, and even the stuff that's in 2021 has a big question mark next to it too.
Yeah, I'm talking to my agent about 22, which is like, are you kidding? What? I can't talk about that. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. Yeah. But I have to.
Yeah, Walter, I imagine you probably have an inbox full of similar questions.
It's like, at the beginning, people were indeed, as Josh was saying, like shows were postponed to September, October, November, and now we're already like in September, and I don't even know when things will start up again or will start again, and like going back to normal. I don't think that the going back to normal doesn't exist anymore. Whatever it will happen, and let's say when this is all over, we have to start things up again. It needs to like we start from maybe start over from scratch in a way on many levels, because infrastructure gone for the live industry, certain people are doing other jobs. Are venues still capable to put on shows? Is there like a financial buffer to do this? It's like, is touring sustainable like it was in 2019? It's all these questions I don't know anymore. It sounds dramatic, but I'm completely oblivious to the future at the moment, like what actually will be possible or not. Like, and as Josh and Amalie said, like what we saw in the Netherlands, that they really the government took care of the flagship venues, the flagship orchestras, the theaters, like, and all that. And I'm very happy that they did. They are helping out with packages for staff at music venues and everything. But still, it's the whole infrastructure, it's the musicians. And I'm so worried about like what Amalie is saying, like, are there many artists now feeling confident enough to write new albums? Is there like a lot of new music being made, and how can people at least promote the music or bring music to us, the people that love it?
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
I saw this thing about where it was a overview of most most important jobs and least important jobs now. And of course, people in the healthcare sector are on the top of the most important, but artists were the number one on the least important jobs. And I thought, what is this? Like, I understand we're not saving lives. I really, my goodness, I'm so thankful for the healthcare sector and for nurses. I mean, they're actually, risking lives. But what are you guys doing during all this lockdown time? Are you not listening to music? Is this not the time where you need artists? And I'm not saying artists should get a bunch of money from the government. I just don't see that happening. But at least acknowledge that this isn't just, completely pointless. It's been since the dawn of time very important to human race to listen to music, play music, sing together in a circle at the fire. It's pretty important.
It's super important.
Indeed. Well, this is something that, just putting it out there. Someday I hope to be asked, what was it like, during this time of lockdown and everything else. And I'm not really going to know what to say, because every day was almost exactly the same. It's just going to be like, there's this period that began sort of here, and then maybe it sort of just got better over here. But one thing, and I'm not sure if you guys relate to this, but this is a forum about music. One thing I'm definitely going to remember is what I listened to during this time. That's how I punctuated things. And it's interesting what you're saying, like, simply for that reason, because, in a time where hopefully the stigmas of, mental health are lessening, and the need for people to be talking about their needs, not just physically, but also mentally, the therapeutic importance of music and the arts in many ways, should never, have been off people's radar, but now it is what people need to make it through.
Yep.
I listen to a lot of music, but the weirdest thing about it all, that my scope of music dramatically changed. I am listening to a lot of music that comforts me. So I'm listening to a lot of folk music, a lot of like ambient, but a lot of like country and dark singer-songwriters. But I love my black metal too, and sludge and all the heavier music, but I cannot listen to it at the moment. It doesn't, I don't know how to explain. It's too much, it's too intense. I need music that I can like sit back and relax and at least feel rejuvenated in a way. And that's a scary thing to discover, that suddenly my taste in music changed during this lockdown so much. And don't get me wrong, I still love my heavy music like 2 bits, but I hardly listen to it because it's too much to bear at the moment.
That just
maybe
of live music though, doesn't it? Because like, especially the heavy stuff, it was always to be enjoyed live. I mean, like, I don't tend to listen to black metal on the stereo on my headphones. You got to see that stuff live, like, because that's all, you know, the atmosphere is what makes it.
Yeah. I think this topic right here is a good. We touched briefly on the fact that there's certain companies that got very wealthy from these types of crises, such as Amazon and Spotify, for example. And if we can't go out to play live, which was our last place to earn money as an artist, unless you put out a new T-shirt every other day and you're very lucky, you know, then the streaming is, I mean, my streaming numbers are crazy now with the new album, because where else are they going to, but half of the people couldn't even go to the record store or anything else, and they couldn't receive, I know people's orders got sent back, blah, blah, blah. Streaming, maybe it's time these companies think about, okay, maybe we should have a more fair way of paying these artists that create this entire industry, because without them, we're zero. Nothing without the musicians. So maybe we should pay them instead of the whole, like, I don't know, the Spotify guy saying, you know, you should make 4 albums a year. That's how you solve this crisis. And that's not realistic, you know.
Yeah, that did provoke a reaction, and as it should have, right? Because he's more or less talking about making records like you're building furniture. You know, just make more of them. If you make more bar stools, you will have more of them to sell.
God, yeah. Talk about like not understanding.
Yeah.
Music, right?
So yeah, exactly. So something we talked about here, I think in a different strand, we're talking about, do we actually want to go back to the world that we left behind? Maybe is this an opportunity to reflect on the way that things worked and reset the way that things worked as well? Is there a greener method of touring? Is there a fairer deal for recording artists? Is this a moment for us to kind of step back from the way things used to work and basically say, we don't want things going back to exactly the way they were? Maybe it is a chance to sit back and sort of reflect on how we can improve the world that we go back to. I mean, it certainly sounds like maybe the streaming deals have to change. Otherwise, this thing, it does become a hobby for people, right? Because
I don't think they will change. I mean, if I've learned anything, is that the one that won't change is tech giants. So maybe the rest of us could change and connect even more as a family, and think even more like what's the purpose of music? Why did I start doing this? And have faith in the audience that somehow they do want to support their favorite artist because it matters to them. But I mean, yeah, they are making it a hobby for a lot of people, because at this point, what else can you do?
What else are people going to do?
There's been a lot of love out there, like especially on social media, for people to say how much they miss like live music. But you can't help but notice, like, when there's all these people, you see people just like, oh, I can't wait to go back and see bands again. And you might know that person, and you're like, I have never fucking seen you at a gig before. Like, and now you're saying that you want live music. How come you didn't fucking support me like last year?
Well, can I ask Josh and Walter? I mean, from your perspective as live music promoters, obviously we've touched on streaming, and it sounds like it's a question mark. Is this a replacement? Probably not. Is it something we can do in the meantime? Probably. I mean, it seems like there's activity and growth there. But, you know, people always talk about the metal community, you know, and the kind of the family feeling around this music. And, you know, and I wondered, have you found that to be true? Have people found other ways to support? I mean, Josh, with Old Empire, I mean, you sold, you know, merchandise, things to kind of help ends meet. Has that community been there for you in the way that you would have liked it to been, given how deeply affected you've been by this situation?
Yeah, I think they were. Like, I was really surprised by that. Like, I know a lot of artists did the same sort of thing, you know, selling T-shirts, and I know the Bandcamp Friday's been quite a big thing for a lot of people at the moment. Like, we would sell, you know, we sold more merch in sort of like 1 week than we've done in our whole time that we've been formed as a company. So that was, I mean, that was really, really great. And there was a lot of positive messages coming through. But like it extended wider than that as well, because I mean, there's always been sort of like a bit of a disparity, I guess, between sort of like the artists and the agent and the promoters and the managers. So it was really nice to see a lot of people did come together, because we did realize all of a sudden that we were all in the same boat. So whether it be like, you know, canceling shows and, you know, things like returning deposits and like thinking about, you know, moving stuff to the next year. I mean, there was a really good communication between everybody, which we did worry about. You know, there was, you know, when a lot of shows started getting cancelled and I just saw my bank account sort of going down and down and down. But, you know, yeah, all the agents and managers, and I mean, bar a couple of sort of examples, everybody's been excellent. So I've been pretty happy from a community point of view, but unfortunately that isn't making my economic position any stronger. So.
No, certainly not. And I can only imagine the emotional journey that you've been on. I mean, Walter, in your case, with Roadburn having been so close to the start of this scenario, you had to make a very emotional decision very, very quickly. That cannot have been easy.
No, that was really, really difficult to make, and on such a short notice. Like there were people in like we have a very good community with Roadburn, and like a quite a part of the community did understand the decision, but there were also people really angry. Of course, people have invested so much to go to Roadburn. It's 85% of the people are from the world over. They buy a ticket, they have to buy flights, they have to buy hotels, campsites, all that. So people were losing a lot of money at the time when we had to cancel Roadburn. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of things going on about vouchers and whether they could get reimbursed from the hotels. We didn't even know how to handle the financial backlash of this with refunds and everything, like no one did in the Netherlands. So suddenly I became like a concert promoter, I became a lawyer, I became a politician, I became a crisis manager, like all at once, while I'm just a guy full of dreams and putting on a festival. Like that's what I want to do. And suddenly I blacked out at a certain moment, didn't know what to do anymore. We were looking for guidance from the government, how to handle this, because you get in uncharted waters, like also with contracts, with bands, with staff and everything. I have never experienced something so crazy as postponing a festival 2.5 weeks before it was supposed to happen.
Probably makes the volcano sound like quite a good thing now, doesn't it?
The volcano was like, compared with the volcano in 2010, that was easy peasy now. It's and I understand also why people were angry at me about having refunds and everything, but we really didn't know what to do anymore. We didn't, like, Roadburn is part of a venue. The venue needed to close down. Like, all the venues in the Netherlands were closed down, like, suddenly from, like, there was a press conference on TV from the national government, and like every venue, every theater, every cinema in the Netherlands was like closed, like at once, and everything was going tits up in a way, and it was crazy. But back then in March, I had something. We can postpone it to 2021, and then we let's hope and write this out. And now we're here in September, and I'm already like dreading everything for next year, and I have no idea where we're at the moment anymore.
So let me ask, as we wind up and we get to the end, because I don't think that we've ever hoped to answer all these questions, because they're questions everybody's trying to answer every day. But I think if we can form and ask the right questions, that's a start. And so individually, I mean, we have a national promoter, a festival operator, an artist. If we could go around, starting with Josh, How can people support what you do right now? What would be of the most vital importance to kind of help and ensure that this music continues and survives this period?
I mean, the thing, and we've been saying it for months as well, is like we have shows that are on sale for 2021. We still need people to keep buying tickets for shows. I appreciate that, I mean, there's a lot of people like very uncertain, like losing jobs and stuff like that. Like if you're able to sort of like buy a ticket, if the show gets cancelled, you get your money back. It's like, it's a guaranteed thing. So us being able to have like the money in the bank account to know that we're still able to have a viable show for next year means that we can still have a bit of a focus as promoters and know that we're going to be able to put on good events. Whereas, because there are certain shows that are, they sort of get off to a good start and then you'll have, no sales for 6 months. I mean, that makes it too difficult. Then you think to yourself, like, well, should I just cancel the show altogether? Or, so that's for me. It's just like if people can keep buying tickets, that's what we need. Right.
Walter?
At the moment, I'm just tell everybody we need time to assess what will happen in the next half year, 8 months. We need time to like go over every possible scenario, and then make like good decisions for the future. Like that's like when I talk about Roadburn. Like I really hope that festivals will happen again, but I think that what I hope the most is that we will have amazing music again, that artists feel inspired to actually start writing amazing music, and that there will be a time that they can tour again and wow us with their artistry. And that's what I'm hoping for the most, that I'm like can attend a show and experience and feel music, and at least that I can help artists to put up a festival and give them a platform where they can excel and present themselves as I have always been doing. That's what I'm hoping, but I'm rooting for the artist at the moment on every level.
Amalie?
I suppose the best way to support is buy the record. And as for me, I have a merch store at Kings Road with different clothing and things like that. And just I don't know, that would be the only ways. And of course there are the streaming services as well, but I guess going a little more back to the roots of buying stuff and wearing the band's t-shirt that you love and that kind of thing. And then if a band puts on a stream show, then you should buy a ticket if you really want to see it.
I think that's fair enough. Yeah, support the art by supporting the artist.
Yeah, there's nothing else really now that you can do, I think.
Indeed. Okay,
it's the most important thing to do, to support the artists. That's all what's...
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so final question. What's your soundtrack been to COVID? What have you been listening to? Walter, you dangled this out there first. You're talking about things. What have you had on?
I listen to a lot of dark Americana, dark singer-songwriters. I listen to a lot of old English folk, like music that comforts you, like in a way. And I listen to a lot of psychedelic music, like just to music that transports you to this whole other world. But
any recommendations? Give us one album recommendation.
One album recommendation. Oh, wait a minute. It's the one that I still. It's this Dutch band. It's Fluisteraars. It's Whisperers. It's this weird indie black metal kind of folk kind of album. It's something rather extraordinary that helped me a lot.
Fantastic, Josh. Go on.
I mean, what embarrassing music I listen to. I mean, I definitely don't listen to the music that I promote, so there's a lot of like bad 80s music, but let's just say that I listen to cool stuff like, Vatican Shadow and Rainforest Spiritual Enslavement, that type of stuff.
Fantastic. Amalie, any soundtracks aside from your own record, of course, which is nice.
Oh boy, I am so bad when people ask me this. I just totally blank always. We've been listening to, what have we been listening to? See, I've been listening to this old Argentinian woman, folksy singer, and I don't remember her name, so that's a terrible thing to mention. Brian Eno, yeah, like you said, Walter, comforting music for airports type. I don't know, my son seems to respond well to the Minecraft soundtrack. A lot of classical, like, I don't know, I've gone a little bit back to classical music, very simple, like the Bach type, and like piano pieces. I have listened to folk music, but not as much as I normally have, actually. I've been, and then for some reason, like a lot of Toto. I don't know, maybe it's because it's so happy.
Josh and I are high-fiving over here right now. Ending on Toto. Fantastic. All right. Well, everybody...
I just wanted to add one more, if possible. I had a lot of comfort in listening to the Midwife album. It's on the Flancer and Midwife. It's an album about loss. And for some reason, it's so captivating. That's my to-go record this year, like for the most time.
And I do have to say, and I do sincerely mean it, Folkasong, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah.
Is an absolutely extraordinary record. So go and find it immediately because it is truly something else. So on behalf of everyone at the World Metal Congress, Amalie, Walter, and of course Josh, you're one of our founders. Thank you so much to everyone for your time and your thoughtfulness. And we'll hope to see you on a live arena very soon indeed.
Thank you.
And that does us for the latest episode of the World Metal Congress webcast. So good to have Josh, Amalie, and indeed Walter aboard. So many questions that need answering, but one thing that remains true is that the way we will survive this is if we pull together. If you enjoyed what you saw, or if you didn't, do get in touch with us. Just go to worldmetalcongress.org and sign up to our newsletter so we can let you know about future episodes, which we're already planning this very moment. Thanks so much, everyone. Stay metal.